Hi everyone, Dave Bryson here, back with a new episode of our Spatial How-To series. This time, we're going to focus on finding spatial data that you may already have. Spatial data is everywhere, and I bet you've got some right now on your computer. The challenge is how to turn this potential spatial data into actual spatial data that you can use and analyze. Well, that's what this video is all about, how to create spatial data using tools in Alteryx. Okay, let's jump right in. Here we have a pretty standard customer data spreadsheet. This type of data is really common. It can come from CRM systems, ERP systems, or anywhere you collect customer data. Now, what columns in this data set are spatial? Well, several actually. In a data set like this, the customer's location is defined in their address. And an address contains several spatial attributes like street number and name, the city, the state, or the postal or zip code. These are all spatial attributes that tell you where the customer is in the world. Turning data like this into spatial data is a process known as geocoding, and it's one of the fundamental first steps of any spatial analysis workflow. And what I love about Alteryx Designer is that it is very good at geocoding and provides many tools and data sets to create spatial data. Let's take a look. Alteryx provides, through our Location Insights data package, a set of geocoding and address validation tools that help you turn non-spatial data like addresses into spatial data. To do this, we'll connect the Street Geocoder tool to our data and input the corresponding columns that define the address. Below, you'll see a lot of variables that you can append to your data, but to keep it simple, we'll just add the latitude, longitude, spatial object, and a few of the address validation fields to make sure our addresses match correctly. Then run the workflow, and here you'll see that the output data has a corresponding latitude, longitude, and spatial object type. There are quality fields here that show you the accuracy of your address match to one in the real world, and this helps with address validation. Adding the browse tool will let you see the data on the map. All right. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Dave, but my address data doesn't look like yours. It's not structured like that. For example, many times you may have address data all in one field, like this. So how can I use these geocoding tools if I have to supply the tool with separate columns for each part of an address? Well, the good news is that no matter what format your address is in, parsing address data is something Alteryx does very well. Alteryx can save you a ton of time parsing addresses. Trust me, I've spent more hours than I can count in Excel working with address data, and it's not fun. Alteryx makes parsing very easy. If your data is from the US or Canada, the Location Insights data package provides a handy address parsing tool that will extract the address elements automatically from your data. Just open the tool, tell it which elements you want to parse, like street number or city, and then run the tool, and you'll see here the parsed address elements. For data outside the US and Canada, regex is your friend. There are a ton of community articles that you can search on how to parse addresses. And if you're already familiar with regex, parsing is really a breeze. Either way, once you've parsed the data out, simply put it into the geocoder and your data is mapped. Now, sometimes you might have data that has already been geolocated, maybe from sensor telemetry or from another system that geocodes as a part of an ETL or data processing workflow. If your data has these attributes of latitude, longitude, or sometimes you'll see it as X and Y, then you can go right to the Spatial Tools in Alteryx to get started. Simply add the Create Points tool from the Spatial Toolbar to your incoming data. Point the tool at your latitude and longitude columns. You can see a few other options here related to projections, but that's a bit more advanced than we have time to cover. And for most use cases, the default setting here is just fine. Then the tool creates a spatial object for you easily. Add the browse tool at the end, and there you have it. All right. Finally, let's talk about GPS data. If your business tracks assets, you're probably using GPS receivers and transmitting that data back to some database. So if you want to analyze that data, Alteryx can help. GPS data comes in as latitude, longitude coordinates, like we saw in the last example, and it usually has a timestamp. These data are called breadcrumbs. Raw GPS is not those nice smooth lines you see on Google Maps or on your fitness app when you get done with a bike ride or a run. They're created from those breadcrumbs. And Alteryx can create those lines. And we do this by first adding the points via the Create Points tool. And here you see the breadcrumbs. Then connecting them together using this tool called the Poly Build tool. This tool builds the lines by connecting the points like a game of connect the dots. You can construct individual lines or routes sequenced by the time that point was collected. Then moving on to the next point in time, and so on. You can group the points based on an attribute to create multiple routes. In this case, we have a whale tracking data set where we've created the routes they swam grouped by the individual whales. You can add a filter to select which whale you want and route you want to see, and boom, here you go. This is how this whale was swimming on this particular day. Great. Now, go practice what you've learned. Start looking for these attributes now in your data and use these tools to start your spatial analytics journey in Alteryx. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper into our data package offerings and our spatial analytics tools. We'll see you next time.